There is a unique kind of vulnerability that sets in during a late-night commute. You've worked past your absolute physical limit, the weather is miserable, and you finally manage to drag yourself onto the last empty bus home. Your guard is completely down. That was exactly the state Tushar was in. Running through the rain, he barely caught his usual late route, collapsing into a corner seat. Thoroughly depleted, he let his eyes close to the rhythmic hum of the empty engine. 2 minutes later, his eyes snapped open. The once vacant bus was suddenly packed shoulder to shoulder with a silent, motionless crowd. Before he could process the sheer impossibility of an instant crowd with no intervening stops, fatigue pulled him back under. When he woke up again, the bus was completely empty once more. A logical mind has a defense mechanism, the hypnagogic hallucination. Under severe sleep deprivation, the boundary between wakefulness and REM sleep blurs, projecting dream imagery onto reality. Tushar leaned into this scientific life raft. His brain actively overwrote perception glitches to maintain normalcy. This psychological preference for the mundane creates a dangerous cognitive gap. By categorizing the impossible as mere fatigue, the mind stops looking for external anomalies at the exact moment it needs to be most alert. The illusion of safety shattered with ascent. Visual anomalies are easy to wave away as tired eyes playing tricks, but a sudden, sharp, localized smell of burning biddy smoke filling an empty, enclosed space is a physical anchor. While olfactory hallucinations, known medically as phantasmia, do exist, they are incredibly rare and notoriously difficult for the conscious mind to ignore. A strong, specific odor demands immediate spatial context. Turning to his side, Tushar found the source, an old man, his face carved with deep wrinkles, casually puffing away. He claimed to have ridden this exact route, in this exact bus, every single night for 30 years. The man's voice dropped into a chilling register as he recounted what happened to him exactly a year prior. Sitting in that very seat, he had locked eyes with a hollow-eyed entity that offered a quiet, menacing whisper. "You shouldn't be here." Clinging desperately to the edges of his sanity, Tushar forced a nervous laugh. He chalked the unsettling tale up to the senile ramblings of an eccentric night rider, rested his head against the cold glass, and forced himself back to sleep. In the mechanics of supernatural ecosystems, brushing off the warnings of seasoned survivors is a fatal error. It is the precise threshold where a person stops being a passive observer and actively marks themselves as prey. When Tushar woke up at 1 a.m., the atmosphere in the bus had grown dangerously heavy. The old man and his thick smoke were entirely gone. In their place sat a single, silent figure deeply engrossed in a newspaper. Tushar cautiously asked the man a question. The stranger slowly lowered the paper, revealing a face completely destroyed by trauma, a crushed, bloodied mass of flesh bearing the injuries of a high-speed collision. Tushar screamed, screwing his eyes shut in absolute terror. But when a cold hand touched his shoulder and he opened them again, the blood was gone. The man looked completely normal, offering a gentle smile, a bottle of water, and cryptically asking Tushar why he was acting so scared in a place where things frequently disappear. This illustrates a trauma loop. Victims of violently abrupt deaths fail to process their demise, eternally reenacting their final moments. The man vanished instantly, his voice echoing from the doors. He hurled himself out, followed by the sickening crunch of a fatal impact. The entity makes no attempt to hunt or harm Tushar. Instead, the haunting forces the living to occupy the space of an involuntary witness, tethered to a replay of a tragedy that has already concluded. All logic, all scientific rationalization completely collapsed. Driven purely by the primal instinct to survive, Tushar bolted for the doors the moment the bus decelerated for a stop and hurled his own body out into the freezing, relentless rain. He hit the pavement hard, gasping for air as the bus slowly pulled away. But from the outside, the illusion of the modern transit vehicle burned off completely. It was a charred, mangled wreckage of metal, rolling silently down the wet street. Looking through the shattered, blackened windows, Tushar saw them all. The silent, packed crowd, the smiling newspaper reader, the old man with the beady, staring right back at him.
Every single passenger on board was a long-dead victim of whatever tragedy had destroyed that vehicle. This is a residual haunting. In this state, the vehicle itself functions as the cursed object, acting as a storage medium for a localized pocket of history that repeats outside of linear time. Tashore wasn't hallucinating because he was exhausted. Rather, the crushing fatigue and the isolating weather had temporarily suppressed his psychological defenses, lowering his awareness just enough to accidentally tune into an overlapping reality populated entirely by the dead. The exhausting, isolating grind of our daily routines drains our mental barriers, leaving us wide open to the things lurking just out of sight. It leaves you wondering, when you drag yourself onto an empty, late-night commute, who or what is actually riding right beside you?